Good afternoon, and welcome to Straight Talking with Kelly, where real conversations happen. I am so excited about my next guest today because she is going to inform us as much as she can about the COVID vaccine. So I have with me Jennifer R. Cohen, who is a PhD. Let me tell you a little bit about Jennifer. Dr. Jennifer Cohen is your friendly family scientist who wants to make sure each of you have the facts and understand the science and politics around making an informed decision about the COVID vaccine. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So, Dr. Cohen, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank
you. Can you tell us a little bit about your educational background and how you got involved in science?
Sure. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm excited to have this conversation and want to say just hello to all of our viewers. So my background, I was born and raised in San Francisco, and I am a proud product of the San Francisco public school system. It is a unique academic background because I did start at a community college. So after graduating from high school, I enrolled at my local junior college, City College of San Francisco. I was there for 2 years and I earned an Associates of Arts. And then I transferred to Howard University. So starting at a community college, transferring to an HBCU or historically Black college university. And I majored in biology and minored in chemistry while I was at Howard and ended up graduating and going to Johns Hopkins University, where I earned my PhD in biochemistry, cellular, and molecular biology from Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. So it's a unique academic background where you start from a community college, go to an HBCU, and then earn your terminal degree at a Research One institution.
My, that is so exciting. You know, I also teach at City College, and I also, too, went to City College. And I think it's really important and so glad that you mentioned that because so many people rush to get into a university. And especially when you're really not sure what you want, a junior college is the best way to go and then make that transition.
I agree. It's like the most economic solution, especially for families, maybe if you're first generation, low income, or you come from a multiple kid household like I did. I'm second of 5 daughters. Yes. And so earning your associate's degree and completing all of your general education before transferring to your 4-year university is wise. At the end of the day, and on your diploma, it's going to say the name of the degree that you earned, the 4-year university. And you've now spent less money earning that. So it worked out for our family, and I do encourage anybody who can hear the sound of my voice to consider a junior college or community college before transferring.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much for mentioning that. Now, you recently consulted with our family to help us understand the science and politics behind the COVID-19 to help us make informed decisions about getting the vaccine. And there were so many wonderful questions that came up that people were concerned about. So what are some of the main concerns around the COVID vaccine? And I know since our visit, there's been so many other updates, and it's just like, the variant, do we need a booster? So talk to me about what you know.
So I want to take a step back because one of the reasons why I'm really excited about this conversation, Kelly, is to be able to show myself, even though I have this science background, I am not an immunologist. I am not a physician. I have not done basic research science since 2012. So I am somebody who, like many of you, took time to research and educate myself before going in to have a conversation. And so I just want to lower the threshold on any anxiety or fear that people might have with leading a conversation. You do not need to be, Dr. Fauci or some, a biologist to be able to have these conversations. So when our family met, my goals were really simple, right? I was just trying to facilitate a productive discussion about COVID-19 vaccines. By no means was I presenting myself as the sage on the stage, or, this was to create a loving space where our family can come together and could be curious, could listen, and then speak honestly And I really focused on encouraging everyone to share their thoughts, their ideas, their fears, their questions, so that in community, we could unpack what our hesitancies are. And we were blessed to be able to have community members, elders in our family who had at that time already received the first dosage of the vaccines.
Yes,
and so it was really nice to be able to have them speak. So those are my goals, right? Is to like not come in as I am a physician. I am not. I am a concerned citizen who believes that Black Lives Matter and wants to live and wants my family to live so that we can all come together as one. So some of the questions that came up during that conversation were some questions that maybe your audience members are feeling as well, like questions around, is this virus man-made? And how do messenger RNA, mRNA viruses, vaccines work? So what's the mechanism? How do they work? Will the vaccines cause autism or alter DNA? Right? And the answers are no to both of those. And also know that this is not a man-made virus. Were there shortcuts taken? That was another question that came up in our family discussion.
That's a big one.
This happened quickly. What's this thing about minimum age limit, right? People were curious to know, like, why 16 and above or 18 and above? People wanted to know about vaccine components. What are the ingredients? What are the 4 ingredients? Safety and effectiveness were other, points of concern, questions that came up. And then, are there any links between vaccines and infertility? We did have some new mothers in our family community, so we talked about that. And we talked about what side effects, potential side effects, normal immune responses to, that we get when we get exposed to a flu or a cold. So those are some of the amazing questions that came up, and I want to underscore that our family is a mix of people from different levels of education, different walks of life, different interests, passions, ages, beliefs, even within our own family.
Sure.
So
yes.
It was beautiful to be able to come together and like have that time to just talk about facts and redirect to what the science is saying. You wouldn't go to a mechanic to look at your teeth or, to help you with your vision. So being mindful about going to the right expert to seek the information that helps people make informed decisions.
So one of the things that I know that I hear a lot of is that there are a lot of people out there that still are very hesitant about getting the shot. And now, because we have the Moderna, the Pfizer, and the Johnson & Johnson, now they're comparing like which one is the best one to take and how do you do that? And then I just heard from someone that said that the Johnson & Johnson one is a one shot, which I know that, but that it also helps with the new variant that has happened. Is there any truth to that?
Yes, there is. So I want to encourage, if you have your phone with you or a pen and a paper, that you write down and be thinking about reputable places for you to bring these type of questions. Excellent question about like comparing and contrasting these now 3. So the Johnson & Johnson vaccine was tested at the time when these faster spreading viral variants were common and in the countries where we started to see them. So I do want to underscore that that's important, that this Johnson & Johnson viral vector type of vaccine has been tested in those countries where we see these variants. Okay, so sources, important sources, trusted sources. These are the places that I went to learn more and make my own decision. And next Tuesday, I get my second dosage. So you want to go to Pfizer, right? You want to go to Moderna. You want to go to Johnson & Johnson. Those websites are important. They have infographics and videos that help to explain to the non-scientist, to the person who wants to know, how does this work? And they also have nice grids that compare, right? U.S. Food and Drug Administration, so the FDA, we know that. We also know about the World Health Organization, WHO, and the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control. These are the 7 or so places where I encourage you. Now, bonus points for the audience members who are like, no, I want to read the data. You can go to open sourced research publications like a Nature journal or the Science Journal to be able to actually read the research that's being rapidly published, because there's so many amazing people who are thinking about this, working on these. And find out what the actual data is if you want to go dig deeper into the actual numbers. But again, Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, FDA, World Health Organization, CDC, these are places that I trust.
Oh, that is beautiful. Now, my other question that I'm sure other people are probably, I'm really trying to think of questions that I think other people would be asking you. Now, people that have gotten the shots, I know when I got my first shot, I had a sore arm for a couple of days, but when I took a Motrin, it went away.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't gotten the second shot, but I hear some people say that it makes them tired. They get sick in their stomach. What are some of the side effects have you heard about from the second shot, if any?
Yeah, so, some common vaccine side effects, these are things that you should expect, right? A pain at an injection site.
Yes.
84.1% people are experiencing that, and that we know that anybody who's ever gotten a shot,
vaccine,
it's going to be a little sore. 62.9% people feel fatigue. I personally didn't feel fatigued after my first dosage. We see 55% of people who receive the vaccine injections feel a headache. There's some people, less than 40%, feel muscle pain. There's about 30% who get chills, joint pain, fever, and 10% feel a swelling at the injection site, and some redness. I did have redness and a little bit of like a rash, which is true to any time I get my flu vaccine. I always get a couple of little bumps around the injection site. So those are some of the main common vaccine side effects that people can expect. Okay. And it's that second dose where we want to be paying more careful attention to how we practice self-care and how we rest, because that second dose is where we see the larger immune response, right? Your body's working really hard to make sure to produce these antibodies. And so you might feel some inflammation, in your lymph nodes. You may really be tired. The beauty is that we have so many people in our communities who are getting vaccinated that you can talk with. I encourage everyone, talk to people around you. Ask them, what was your experience like? What can I expect? How did you rest and recover? So that people, start to normalize that it's a little uncomfortable surviving a pandemic. And I'd rather you be uncomfortable now, but alive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And so I think, now, the other thing that I'm a little bit concerned about is that a lot of us are getting vaccinated. Mm-hmm. We're following the rules. We're staying in. But now the cities and all over are opening up again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what, you guys? I think it's too soon, personally. People are
such a contradiction, So I'm going to tell you what my practices are, right? So even if a governor or their businesses who are opening and people are saying that it's safe to go out, I don't yet feel comfortable. And I have the first dosage, right? I don't yet feel comfortable. And I want to ask people to use their own discernment. Just because it's available does not mean that you have to be out there in the streets. It's safer for you to be continuing to practice social distancing, to continue to practice your healthy hygiene, and to wear your masks, and when all possible, to just be distant from people, right? Yeah. So don't let the opening of restaurants and other symbols of life back to normal trick you into thinking that it's safe for you. We are still in a pandemic, and we know that there are variants that are arising, and we want to make sure that people stay safe.
Yeah, it's really amazing, and I get that people want to get back to their lives and whatnot. But when you think about a lot of people that aren't getting the shots, there are a lot of people that aren't wearing the mask. So how are you safe? How do you think you're safe going back out there? Like, really? So you're right. Discern and really pay attention to the news in terms, I'm not saying you have to immerse yourself into it, but just stay on top of what's happening because we're still losing lives.
You're absolutely right, and disproportionately in our communities, right?
Yes.
So we have the high rates of vaccine hesitancy and also high rates of infection and death, especially in Black communities. So it's really important that people are exercising their own agency, shining their brains towards: is this safe? Do I need to do this? Is there another way that I can reach this goal? As far as we talk about food a lot, okay? Yes. I have my groceries delivered to my house, right?
Okay.
I plan my time to safely go to my local market because I want to make sure that my local businesses are, still in the neighborhood once the pandemic ends, right? So I want to support them. Yes. And I usually go during a time where I know there won't be anybody else except for the shopkeepers. Yes. That's usually really early in the morning. And I'm there with my mask on. I bring my own bags. I bring as many things as I possibly can to limit touching. I get my groceries, and I do that once or sometimes twice, once a week or once every 2 weeks, depending on how what I'm eating. So I plan out, I'm strategic about when I have to leave the place to my apartment. And I also think about what can be brought to me, what can be delivered here, to also save in a trip. It's okay to take these precautions. It's better for us to be safe and feel like it's, one more step, but we survive, right?
Yeah, I actually think that it's going to take probably another year or even longer. And I actually believe in my heart that some of this is going to be our new normal, where absolutely. We're going to always have to be on the lookout and, be in safety in terms of what we touch, what we do. And the masks are going to be around for a while. So exactly. I don't think, people are rushing back to want it to be normal. You know what, guys, wake up. This is the new normal.
This is the new normal. And the pandemic will eventually turn into an endemic, right? We are comfortable with the concept of endemics. This is a disease or condition or virus that's regularly found among people, right? So we have our annual flu, we have a common cold, we have rhinoviruses, and there are other coronaviruses that exist, respiratory viruses that exist. Endemic versus pandemic, right? People is very different, right? And thinking about the flu and the common cold and those being endemic viruses and diseases, that we survive. Life is not restricted. People are not, it's flu season, I'm going to stay in, but now that we know that common cold and flu have been significantly decreased because people are wearing masks, because people are socially distancing.
Oh, okay.
So there's been decreases in even the known common annual, illnesses that we experience. So get ready to have this be, something similar to that.
Yeah.
Also, I can't wait so it's safe for me to be able to travel. I can't wait.
Yes.
Right? I got lots of dream places that I've loved. I can't wait to go. And I also plan on, as a personal practice, every time I travel, that I'll be wearing a mask. That I will be, especially for international travel, that this is going to be my new normal. It's, and I really like having a mask that is, that reflects my personality, as a pattern or a statement, and it's become an accessory, a safety accessory. And so, I just encourage and invite everyone who can hear us and who are part of this conversation to be thinking about what would life look like where, when we are traveling or when we're out and about, that we protect our neighbors. And that's really what it is being respectful and protecting our neighbors. And this new concept for Americans. There are other countries, who have more of a nationality. This is America, land of the free, and individual, and me first.
Right.
So the concept of doing something like modifying your behavior because it's going to impact or save the life of your next door neighbor or your somebody who lives in your community is new, but it is so important that we wrap our minds and start to behave in ways that are that protect the safety of our elders and our young people.
Yeah, our learning curve is a little slow, but we're getting there. Now, the other thing that I recently saw is that they're considering and they're doing testing right now on babies. And I guess I think it was 6 months. I don't remember exactly the age month, but they're giving the injections to them to find out what that's all about. So
isn't that exciting? So,
is.
There's about 10 vaccines that are in the works. We now see 3 in our country. Other countries have different versions, different vaccines. And it's important to, stay aware of what's happening in the US, what's happening in other countries.
Yes.
And that now, trials are showing safety and efficacy in younger than 16 children. And so that's exciting that research is being able to kind of keep pace with what's happening. And that not only can the parents and the grandparents, aunties and uncles be safe, now our kids.
Kids can, absolutely. Well, it's so cute because I make face masks. Mm-hmm. And I've made them for my little nieces, and they're so cute. They're so tiny, and it amazes me. I was watching a little girl today that had her little raincoat on and her little mask, and they know how to keep them on. I mean, the kids got more sense than we do.
And I mean, that you can get comfortable to this. And it's important that we model that we are going to practice this. This is our lifestyle so that we can all stay safe. Mm-hmm.
Well, Jennifer, this has been wonderful. So I want to segue out of COVID for a minute to talk a little bit more about you, because I think you are definitely a fascinating young lady. I remember watching you grow, and for some reason, I always thought you were going to be in the fashion industry because I remember at a family reunion how you took the T-shirts and you had everybody redesigning their T-shirts. Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about what got you interested in science? There had to be something that did that, right? What got you involved?
So the first is a person. It's my mom, my first role model.
Okay.
So I was encouraged and mentored in ways that illuminated my path towards science. My mom, Loretta Cohen, would encourage me. And so she would see my test scores, my math and science. She'd be like, "You are so good at that. Oh, okay. You're going to make a great scientist one day." We didn't know any scientists, but I believed her because she's my mother, right? And so that built my confidence, coming from, and then she would also Mom and Dad would expose us to the AIM Highs, for the people in the Bay Area, the AIM Highs and the MESA programs and all these STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM enrichment programs. Mm-hmm. And so I began to have all of these experiences that helped develop my passion, right? So it started with like, hey, you're good at this, which we all don't. I pray we all have mentors or loving people in our lives who see a talent and nurture that. And then by the time I got to Howard, I had, Dr. Clarence Lee, Dr. Winston Anderson, who were Black scientists who, I had that representation. I could see them. They were my professors, they were teaching me and they were telling me, and then you need to do this. And then you need to do this. After your bachelor's, you earn a PhD. Don't worry about the master's, go straight for the PhD. Excellent advice. So, that's how my exposure started. It was just like, I had an interest. My mom said I was good at that and reinforced that. And then I had mentors who were in science who helped me to be more exposed and learn like, yep, I want to do this. This is really what I want to do.
That is beautiful. And the key thing that you said about what your mom, how she inspired you, that you believed it. See, that's where it starts. That the more you hear it, and then you saw her modeling it by getting you into those programs. And definitely people that are listening audience, if you have children out there, please encourage them. If you pay attention to them, because kids show you who they are and what they like when they're little.
You're absolutely right. I no longer ask kids, what do they want to be when they grow up? I ask, what kind of problems interest you? What do you find yourself thinking about more often? Because even in my own career, I had an idea. I always wanted to be a scientist. I became a scientist, and then I found new problems to solve. I was like the only, brown face over here. So now my new problem to solve is how do I get more Black and brown scientists, And so my career evolved. And so I don't want, our parents, our educators, people who are influencing young people to be focusing, narrowing with their question around like, what do you want to be? Because that will change if we do it right?
Yes.
You open up, you find yourself in a new sphere that gives you new ideas, and then those ideas take you somewhere else. And so there's this squiggle, and I like to say surrender to the squiggle. It's not going to be a linear path between where you are now and where you want to be. And it's going to look like this, some setbacks.
Because the possibilities are endless.
And the possibilities are endless.
And we don't have to be one thing.
We are not.
I've had so many different careers, and they've all been wonderful. So I know that you don't have to put yourself in a box.
Absolutely.
Now, so tell me, I know that you're at Stanford working right now. So tell us a little bit about what you do there.
Sure. So I work in the School of Medicine at Stanford University in the Office of Graduate Education. And our team houses everything a student would need, a student who wants to become a PhD in biomedical research, from admissions, so when they apply and they want to start their graduate career, to commencement, so and everything in between. So those 6 or so years of programming. So my role, I lead a lot of the justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. I like to call those JEDI initiatives, and focusing on student belonging. So I am leading the recruitment of students, focusing on our targeted population, students who have been historically excluded from higher education and also from science. That's our Black students, our African students, our Caribbean students, our Latinx students.
Nice.
So for recruiting, and then trying to make Stanford a place where these students want to stay. So those retention programs, right? So who cares? Who cares if we get them in the door? They're brilliant and they are accepted. And then if they find themselves in a place where they feel like they can't thrive, they don't feel cared for, they don't feel like they have a sense of community or professional development, that's where I come in. And so I run programming to make sure that students feel like they are welcomed, supported, and respected.
So they can come in and do a check-in with you, or you check in with them to make sure that they are feeling okay.
Oh, absolutely. I have an open door policy, and even within the virtual world, I have a link so students are able to make meetings with me. I also have a time, where virtual office hours, where I'll just be in a Zoom space playing music, and students are able to come in as they need, and we could talk about whatever, the highs and lows of earning a PhD. Absolutely. I think it's really important for our students to see not only me, because I am the end product of what they are in training for, right?
Yes.
I studied respiratory viruses at Johns Hopkins. I studied, coronavirus, and I was a part of a umbrella program where I was able to kind of tailor my thesis work. The Stanford Biosciences PhD programs are very similar in that you can collaborate, and it's like amazing opportunities for you to tailor your, graduate thesis work. So there are lots of similarities. What blows my mind, Kelly, is being able to, here we are. I started at Johns Hopkins in 2004, and here we are, 2021. I am in a role as an administrator where I'm reading applications, and I am a part of the decisions that are being made for accepting new cohorts of students and running programs around belonging. And so those initiatives all help to solve for the problems that I experienced during my PhD training.
Oh, nice.
And so if someone asked me, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I say a scientist, I would have no idea the joy of being able to come full circle, as the Associate Director for Biosciences Diversity Programs and the Director of Advance at Stanford, to be able to nurture the old me.
Yes.
And solve for the problems, building policy and strategy that are more inclusive, insisting on representation and inclusion. And so that students really just have to focus on learning.
Absolutely. Isn't that amazing? It's like what we all want. Anyways.
It's hard enough.
That is so beautiful. That is it's like a dream job.
I do feel like it's a dream job. Not only that, it's a team that I feel respected and valued.
Yes.
So what makes it a dream, I like the work. I like being able to have that direct student interaction. I like being able to encourage them and be able to see them growing as scientists. That's a thrill. That's exciting. I also love being on a team within the Office of Graduate Education where, everyone is an expert and knows when to step forward and when to step back to let the colleague lead. And I feel mentored in my role. It's actually the first time in my career, to be quite honest, where I really do feel like my belonging metrics, the things that I need in order to feel like I, as a professional, fit in and feel supported and I'm going to achieve my goals, that where those metrics are being met for myself. And so I feel like that is expressed in how I serve my student population, right?
That is so amazing. Now, how do you recruit? Where do you recruit for the scientists, the students that are interested in this?
So traditionally, Stanford has taken a very passive role, right? Relying just on name alone and pedigree. We're Stanford University. We don't have to recruit. They come to us. And research shows that communities of color don't vibe with that. We need relationship-driven interactions. And so one of the initiatives that I'm very proud of is building an HBCU partnership. And we now have 17 HBCUs that we partner with, that we share, reciprocally information and resources.
Nice.
During our recruitment season in the fall, we have recruitment sessions tailored for the Howard Universities and the Fisk Universities and the schools that produce science, technology, engineering, and math majors.
Okay.
And we start asking, how can we support you? What are your needs? How do we build pipelines so that your students are applying to the schools, and see themselves thriving? And so we connect them with our current students. There's lots of opportunity to just have soft and more formal mentoring with current graduate students to just demystify what that path looks like. So it's about intentional strategy, working with minority serving institutions, making ourselves available as partners and not just this ivory tower where,
Sure.
It's passive. No, it's active. We're building relationships. These relationships need to be strong and fortified past any, colleague, so as people move up in their careers and change, we want to make sure that these relationships are institutionalized with our HBCUs and our Hispanic serving institutions and our tribal colleges. So yeah, we are building out a whole strategy on how do we engage, and then we track. So I run an undergraduate program. I also run a program for incoming graduate students who've already been accepted. And we want to track how many of these undergrads, actually apply for a Stanford PhD. Did they complete this advanced programming? Did they complete this, the SSRP programming? There are, different programs that we have, pipeline programs. So yeah, we are being intentional and then tracking. It's all about relationships.
Well, you know what? I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, oh, you better believe other universities are watching you because they're going to want to replicate what you're doing.
Well, and I'm happy to, anyone think of me as a collaborator. But just think,
but you started this. Your educational background led you to this unique opportunity that other Ivy League universities are going to be looking at because they all need to diverse, I'm sure.
Well, so I last week attended this National Association for Diversity Officers in Higher Education. That acronym is long, but it's you can make it fit in your mouth by saying NADAHE. And Stacey Abrams and her sister, Dr. Abrams.
That's my girl.
Some keynotes. It was fantastic. Dr. Kamara Jones was a keynote. But this is, national leaders who are all thinking about this from different schools, hundreds of schools who come together and share best practices. So you're absolutely right. It is a value of mine to be able to be tapped into my professional community to say, hey, this is working. But more importantly, Kelly, this didn't work. And so my presentation, I presented with some colleagues and we were talking about what didn't work. Some of the things that we don't always get it right. And it's important to be honest about that, right? But here are our best practices. This may work at your university or your institution. Try it, and then email me and let me know what what the results are. Like, let's continue to collaborate.
That is beautiful. Now I have another question for you, and you kind of alluded to it at your time at Johns Hopkins. So I would like to ask you, looking back on your life, what would the 9-year-old Jennifer say to the adult Jennifer now? What would she say to her?
So I am seeing myself on a beach. I'm in the Richmond district of San Francisco. I'm looking at the Pacific Ocean, and the first thing I think about is how my dad exposed us to sundials, and that was like early science exposure. He would always felt like he was cutting our time short. Like, okay, it's time to go home, girls, and we, and he was like, everybody find a flat rock. We'll put it in here into the sand. We will put another rock where the shadow falls. As the sun moves across the sky, we'll put another rock over here. When the shadow is over here, that means it's time to go. So, no dispute. Daddy's not cheating us from our beach time, and so I think about that little girl, right, who just liked that we could look around the world. There's biology, that we could learn so many things about our environment. And I think that she would say, wow, because being able to go from that, sand in your hair and, asking questions about how and why, like, how does this work? Why does this work? Going to earn a PhD and learning deeply how things work and using the scientific method to be able to problem solve. The wow comes in using that scientific method as an administrator in higher education to solve problems around policy and people and belonging. So I think that's the arc that I would hope that my 9-year-old Jennifer would appreciate, that you can do anything. Is you have a strategy on how to solve a problem, and you can use that strategy in any industry, whether that's science, whether that is relationships, whether that is, any career, any industry. So thanks for that question.
That is beautiful. That is so, wow. That was beautiful. So before we leave, I know there are families out there that would want you to present a COVID workshop with them. So tell me, what will they need to do to get in touch with you?
So first thing is just be scared, like I was. Step one to doing anything amazing in your life is be afraid, for some of us. Okay. So I do extend myself as a collaborator to anybody who's listening who would like to learn more. You can reach me at jrcohen@stanford.edu. That's Junior Cohen at stanford.edu. That's my email. And what you're going to get is a pep talk. I am going to tell you and listen to what your concerns are, and I'm going to tell you that you can do it. I'm going to encourage you and share my slides, the slides that I presented to my family, as a template so that you can help to educate, do a mini course on vaccines and virology, and really just open up a loving space for people to just talk, because that sense of hesitancy needs to go somewhere. It cannot stay just in our heads or in our hearts and in fear. We have to have spaces in community with psychological safety where we can feel like we can ask any question and get an answer. So yeah, people, reach out to me, jrcohen@stanford.edu. We'll talk about what your goals are. I'll share any resources that I have that you might be interested in, but it's going to be a pep talk. You can do this. You can do this.
That's beautiful. So I just want to say thank you so much for spending some time with us, sharing all of the wonderful resources and tips, and just illuminating us with your fascinating background in terms of how you got from A to B to where you are right now.
Thank you so much.
It's amazing. I love it. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
You definitely will have to come back.
I appreciate this opportunity.
You definitely have to come back.
I want to be a regular.
Okay, I'll have you back. Thank you again, audience, for listening to Straight Talking with Kelly, a podcast that interviews some of the most creative, talented, and intelligent people willing to share so much with you, as we saw today with Dr. Jennifer Cohen. So again, thank you so much.